Nick Adams. He's the founder and executive director of FLAG, and I'm going to let him explain to you what FLAG stands for. Nick, welcome.
G'day, Mark Cox. Great to be with you, sir.
I appreciate you being here.
Well, it's always a pleasure to come and join such a fantastic radio host and reach such terrific listeners like yours. So I'm really looking forward to spending a little bit of time with you here this afternoon, talking to you about why I think America's the greatest country in the history of the world and what I'm doing to make sure that it stays that way.
Why did you form this organization? And along with that answer, what made you go, and we're going to get into this, but what made you go to the trouble you had to go to come to America from Australia?
Well, Mark, this is the greatest country in the history of the world. And right now, America has got more problems than a math book. But it is still, even with all of those problems, it is still by far and away the best country in the world to be born in, the best country in the world to live in, the best country in the world to work in, to start a business in. And when I go and speak to St. Louis University high school students later today, what I'm going to tell them is what I tell every single elementary, middle, high school or college audience that I speak to, and that is the day that you were born in the United States of America is the day that you won the lottery of life. You got a head start so incredible, it cannot even be described in words. I came to America, I went through incredible effort, money, and time to come here because I wanted to be the person that I wanted to be. I wanted to come here to have the freedom, to have the personality, and this is the only country where personality hasn't been downsized, where confidence hasn't been downsized, where you can colour outside of the lines and not get punished for it, where you can be successful and not be resented and become a target of the media or the culture or celebrities. This is the place where risk, hustle, initiative goes further than anywhere else. And this is just an amazing country. It's more than a country. It's an idea. It's an ideal. And that's why so many people come here, because you have the freedom to be able to go out and achieve whatever you want to achieve.
It is a lesson, what you just said is a lesson lost on so many young people in this country today. I don't think they appreciate what you've just said. I hope some of them are listening and can wake up and see the opportunities that are laid at their feet just by being born in this country, instead of being given excuses your whole life for why you can't better your place in life. And it's something we try to preach on this radio program. But, you know, sometimes you're speaking in a vacuum. You've got people who are listening who already agree with you. You can't have that impact, which is why I appreciate what you're doing with the FLAG, which I don't think I mentioned stands for the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness. Now, you came here from Australia. I think a lot of people may have the impression that, hey, Australia's a democracy. What's so much greater about the U.S. than Australia?
Well, look, Australia is a country that strives for mediocrity, not greatness.
Okay.
Australia is and much like the rest of the world, I mean, I think it's fair to say America is the only country in the world that doesn't strive for mediocrity and still embraces greatness. I mean, everywhere else, whether it's Western Europe, whether it's the English-speaking cousins of America, all of them have subscribed to this politically correct doctrine, which essentially mandates that life under political correctness, Mark, life becomes about kissing butt rather than kicking it. Yeah. And I mean, I was born to kick butt. I like kicking butt. I'm not too good, and I don't really enjoy kissing butt. And so for that particular reason, that's what has always attracted me about America, and I think a lot of people. I mean, Americans are butt kickers. They are people that go out there and get the job done. They are people that are confident. They're people that are energetic. They're people that are optimistic. They've got a can-do spirit about them. And, so Australia's a great place if you want a life characterised by small steps. If that's what contents you, that's fine. But if you want to leave a legacy, if you want to blaze a trail, if you want to do something that no one's ever done before, you can't do it, because the whole idea about Australia is conforming. The reason why it's a paradise of sorts for many people is because you don't see any homeless people. Everyone is kind of the same. And what people don't understand is that freedom is going to deliver inequality.
Thank you.
But it's also going to lift up those that want to work hard and that have a destiny that will differentiate themselves.
Thank you. Cream rises to the top.
Exactly.
Said it so many times, and it's what gets under the skin of a lot of people who are unhappy for some reason with the opportunities that we have in this country. Now, Nick, our guest, is a green card carrying immigrant. And I want you to tell my listeners your story, because I go in here all the time, and we've talked about immigration leading up to this election and Donald Trump wanting us to regain our sovereignty and the flow of illegal aliens across our borders and people that have come in and overstayed their visas are all big problems. Here you are, someone who wants to come to this country to better yourself. You want to do it legally. Tell people how much trouble you had doing that and what it cost you personally to gain this opportunity.
Well, Mark, look, my green card, I got an extraordinary ability green card, which is the most coveted one to get because it's a fast track to citizenship. I only need to wait 5 years before I can become a citizen. It's kind of like the greatest scholarship available on this earth.
Okay.
It's basically the US government saying that you have to prove that you've risen to the top 1% of your chosen field. And it's basically the US government saying you are so good, we want you in our country just on reputation alone. You don't need a job. You don't need an offer of employment. We just want you because you're that good. And look, immigrating to America at the best of times is very expensive and takes a long time. In my case, things were exacerbated because I was a prominent conservative figure. And the whole basis of my application was as an author and a commentator. And so there was no secret as to who I am and what I believed in.
Right.
And the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service approved my extraordinary ability green card petition. And the very last step in the process is you have to go to your local US consulate or embassy in your home country, and you need to bring your original passport, and you need to show your original birth certificate, medical, and police check. It's really like, to use another analogy, it's kind of like, you go and catch a flight and you've got to check in and you bring your bags in, and then you go through and the TSA check your boarding pass and your passport. Then you go through security and all your hand luggage gets checked and you get checked, and then you're at the gate. But still at the gate, right before you board, you have to have your boarding pass scanned. So
right.
It's kind of like I'm at the gate, and this is just, so I've got everything, and it's just the boarding pass being scanned. Well, I came up against a complete and total leftist cockroach that was in the US consulate. And I didn't know it at the time, but a subsequent investigation revealed that the individual involved was a homosexual activist that had taken offence, presumably to things that I had said on CNN and Fox News concerning the traditional family, concerning my opposition to same-sex marriage. And this person ended up turning my life upside down. And there is this crazy thing in the law called immigrant intent. It's a legal principle that's existed for decades here in the US. And your listeners are going to be absolutely blown away by this. But basically, immigrant intent stipulates that if you have demonstrated a desire to be a permanent resident of the United States and the government knocks you back, you are never, ever, get a load of this, you are never, ever again allowed to re-enter the United States in your lifetime.
So it's like a one strike, you're out deal.
Not even as a tourist, Mark. Nothing.
So that's what this guy tried to do to you?
That's exactly right. Yes, he knew that with immigrant intent kicking in, that would mean that I would never be allowed to come back to the US. And these were dark days for me because, again, as I had risen to prominence here in the United States, I was a high school English teacher back home. And I became unemployable because that's just the culture in Australia. You know, I would work during the school term, and the moment the vacation would come, I'd be on a plane to America, and I'd be speaking and commentating and writing and doing all that stuff over here. And it was fine for the first couple of years, but then as I became a mainstay on national television, all of a sudden, in this age that we live in, parents, students, fellow teachers would find something on YouTube or on Facebook, and there would be complaints lodged. You know, I mean, I guess I should explain to your listeners that anybody that watches Fox News to an Australian, that's an extremist. You're extreme if you watch Fox News. That's kind of the mentality in Australia.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we're much more European than what people. I shouldn't say we.
Think.
I'm an American now, but yeah, it's a much more European country than what people think. Yeah, people think that we box kangaroos by day, wrestle crocodiles by night, you know.
And carry really big knives.
Knives, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, with Fosters and all that kind of stuff. And nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, Australia is the second most urbanised country in the world. 89% of our population live in one of the 6 major cities. We're a bunch of city slickers.
Yeah.
And when you think about where culture is created, it's no wonder that Australia on a national level projects big city values like climate change and progressive social issues and stuff like that. So, look, it was a hard time. So I was unemployable in Australia, and then I essentially was on a no-fly list to come to the United States, the country that I worked so hard to build a life in and a career in, and I was in contract negotiations with Fox News at the time. It just destroyed my life. So if it wasn't for the intervention of several US senators and congressmen that were outraged by what was happening to me, I wouldn't be able to be here. So in the end, Mark, it ended well. On the 29th of July, I immigrated here, but it took me 4.5 years, and it cost me $50,000.
Wow.
Outrageous.
Again, it just drives home to people how much we take for granted what we have if we were born here.
Yeah, it does.
And I love you making that point. Nick Adams is my guest. He's the founder, the executive director of FLAG, and it's just a great organization talking about what he appreciates about American greatness. I want to. Can you hang around?
Sure.
I have to go to a break here, but I want to get Nick to hang around. I want to talk a little bit more about our immigration problem from an immigrant's perspective in this country, with all the trouble he had to go through to get here, and what the world's perception is of President-elect Donald Trump, and what that's going to mean over the next 4 years. I'd love to get his perspective on that, so thank you for hanging around. We'll get to a quick